Original version of the website was pretty bare bones.
I didn't even know what was going to happen, but apparently those two are IMing each other.
And he's like, that sounds like a great idea. Listen, there's this website, this name I've had parked for years, called Big Shiny Robot. Is that like a good name that maybe we could use that?
And that's kind of how it started.
Big Shiny Robot really came around about 5 years ago when I was working on production for a film, and through mutual friends put me in contact with Lucas Ack.
Way back when I did some freelance projects with Brian Young, and him and I got to talking over Instant Messenger back and forth and sharing different nerd links, and we realized that we were doing that across a whole group of us.
Kept finding that we were like on the cutting edge of finding out all this new news in the realm of geek stuff, and Lucas and I were like, why don't we have a website for this kind of nerdery?
One day at work, I was just plugging away, at my real job, but I got an instant message asking if I wanted to be part of this blog that him and his buddy Brian were putting together. And essentially the idea was, let's put this blog together where we can all share geek news and talk about it. Instead of us, instead of Lucas, instant messages a link to some geek news, and Brian reads it and then shares it with a couple of his friends, and he shares it with me, and so on and so forth. Like, let's just put it in almost like a central repository, and then we can all geek out about it together.
When we first started, I had picked up a WordPress theme because, like I said, it was just for a group of friends. It wasn't anything we were taking too seriously. So it was WordPress with a WordPress theme, and at the time was a graphic designer full-time. So we'd thrown together a logo, and Elias came up with the robot mascot and kind of threw that on the website. And that was the site for a long time. When we started getting a lot more attention, especially as a graphic designer, I wasn't embarrassed, but I wasn't really pleased with a lot of people seeing what we'd thrown up. So I spent a lot of time redoing that, and that was around the same time I was learning coding, so it was a good time for me to experiment and change things and get better with that. And so with each version, we've tried to improve it, and that's why we're redoing it now, building it from scratch, because we've just kind of outgrown what WordPress does for what we need. One of the big goals that Brian, Tyson, and I discussed earlier on was helping promote a geek community here in Salt Lake City, and instead of having all these different factions, being able to help enjoy and embrace all of the different things that come with the movies and comic books and different things. So we've gotten to do like The Walking Dead on Sunday nights at Broovies. We host that, and we've had like a video game tournament here, and coming up this year we have SLC Nerd. We're helping sponsor that.
Walking Dead is doing new episodes. I'll go down in and host and do trivia and prizes before the episode, and we do it for free for people on the big screen. And now we're teaming up with City Weekly to do that, and writer for Twitch Film and Fangoria co-hosts that with me now, and we're looking to do bigger and better events. But really, it came out of the need for that geek community here in Salt Lake City, and that's also where the pub quizzes came from. We've done, as we record this, I've done 135 Big Shiny Geek Show pub quizzes, where we do trivia at a bar every week with prizes and a trophy, and it's a lot of fun. And we have about 60 to 100 people show up every week to compete in this. But I've seen people suggest the pub quiz is a great way to meet people of similar interests with like zero pressure. And if you come by yourself to one of these events because you're a shy geek, I can put you on a team of people after 10 minutes of talking to you and figure out where you fit in. And we've been doing that for more than a couple of years now, and I don't see it ending anytime soon. One of my favorite things about Big Shiny Robot is that it's given me access and the ability to meet and interact with people that I don't think I normally would have.
Well, it's really cool because now there's probably a few things. I get to purchase all these different collectibles and things that I used to anyhow, but now it almost serves more of a purpose than staying on my shelf. I can review them and share it with everyone. So that's kind of just a selfish reason. But then I'm a pretty big Ghostbusters fanatic, and I actually got to interview Ernie Hudson for one of his movies he was doing, which was kind of surreal. I think that most of the members of Big Shiny Robot have gotten to interview someone that is important to them in the geek community.
So the first time that I was invited by Lucasfilm to come to an event was the season 3 premiere of the Clone Wars. There was 2 reporters there, total. Me and Eric Goldman from IGN. And that's it. That's all they invited. And they had Seth Green and Matt Senreich there, who at the time were doing their Robot Chicken Star Wars specials, but they were also working on a top secret cartoon project in the Star Wars universe for George Lucas. And Seth Green was saying, well, it's kind of like this, and Matt Senreich was like, no. Is it like this? I don't know. And they were just trying to misdirect me, and all of a sudden I hear this voice over my shoulder. Don't listen to a word these guys say. And you, don't tell this guy anything. And I look over my shoulder, and our interview has been crashed by George Lucas. I am beside myself, trying not to freak out. And it was the most bizarre experience in my life. Absolutely. You never expect that George Lucas is going to come and make fun of you to stop your interview. At a Star Wars celebration, I got to interview Jon Stewart, where he used us as a punchline against the CNN reporter.
Posting Big Shiny Robot. This is the.
How fun is that to say? Whatever happened to New York Times, Washington Division?
Yeah.
I'm a Big Shiny Robot.
I am.
And I realized that if we hadn't started Big Shiny Robot, if we hadn't taken that step to make it as professional as possible, I would have never had that experience.
It was my wish to start a Big Shiny Robot podcast, and we so intelligently named it the Big Shiny Podcast. So the podcast was, I'd like to say it was my brainchild, but let's face it, like, there's no original podcasts out there, right? We ended up selecting a panel to be on there, which was, we tried to get a good group of guys that knew a little bit about something. So we've got Tom, who at the time had worked for GameStop, and so he kind of had the inside to games, and he played a lot of video games and stuff. Kylie works at a local comic book store, so he's always on top of what's going on in comic books. And then you kind of got myself and Lucas, who are, we just kind of jack of all trades. We keep up on the news everywhere, so we know just enough to be dangerous about a little bit of everything. And then we've got the true wild card, who is Jimmy, who is pretty much just on the podcast to keep it lighthearted and make dick jokes. Like that's his role. Phil, the podcast that I was going for is, anyone who's a geek knows that we've all spent that Saturday night where you have intentions of going to do something, and you all end up sitting around in the kitchen for 4.5 hours drinking beer or whiskey or something, geeking out about all the latest geek news or reflecting on your childhood, and you just talk geek. At least for me, I'm kind of like, do I really want to know how many people listen to this? Because it could be surprisingly a lot. If we found out that on a monthly basis 1,000 people listen to this podcast, I would be floored. I would be absolutely blown away. My concern is that if we were to actually find out, it'd be like 56 people. I mean, all honesty, I don't think any of us are afraid to admit that it's really as much fun as we like doing it, and we hope that it helps out the site, and we hope we have listenership. It's really just a good excuse to once a month sit around a table, drink beers, and talk geek, and we just happen to have microphones sitting in front of us.
Big Shiny Robot for all of us is just it's a passion project. We do it in our spare time, lunch breaks at work, evenings at home, anytime something pops up.
The thing I marvel about Big Shiny Robot is that nobody's getting paid. No one. Lucas and I pay out of pocket a bonus every month to a writer who either gets the most hits on an article or sort of our MVP, somebody who wrote something that was just really fantastic. If you're not getting paid for something, you have to have a passion to write about it. And I think that's one of the advantages the Big Shiny Robot has.
If we all stick with it as much as we're humanly able to do, I think it could certainly push it up. But it concerns me that we could get to a point where, when is enough enough? We all have real day jobs that as we get older, we're not just a couple 20-somethings in college anymore.
I hope that we can keep it going bigger. I know there's a lot of weight on mine and Chris's shoulders right now, because we want to move from being the best local blog website to the best independent news site, because like I said, we're all doing this out of our passion. Nobody's making any money, so we're 100% independent. There are plenty other nerd websites you can get your news from online, but then you find out that they're owned by Fox or this gaming company or this other company, so their views end up being maybe a little slanted based on what game their parent company is putting out. And we want to avoid all that.
Big Shiny Robot absolutely has room to grow. We're an independent website with no budget, with no backing, with no corporate master standing over our shoulders.
I do think that it'll get bigger and better as long as we can keep encouraging everyone that's contributing, and Chris and I can give it a platform for them to easily contribute.
We have come a long way. We've gotten promotions and all this stuff, and then we've gotten married, are getting married, have bought houses, all this stuff, and it makes it very difficult to find the time to sit down and do it. And it would be nice if one day we could all just say, Big Shiny Robot is our job.